I'm Kim Jake Tiani. Welcome to Cooler Facts, the show that's full of surprising facts about the world around us. Science, technology, and nature. The first surprise is how we're telling you our stories. Get ready for a fun, fast-paced tour of short little video bits. Each one will leave you with something new. From an insect that puts skunks to shame, to a surprising place on Earth that hasn't seen rain in over 2 million years. Plus, the fastest things on the planet. But first, an animal with the deadliest bite on Earth.
Just about every animal under the sun has teeth, but some bites are a whole lot scarier than others. Consider the African lion. It has a fearsome bite PSI force, that's bite per pound square inch force. It's calculated based on the size of the animal's mouth. The lion's is estimated at over 4,000 pounds. That's like having a 4x4 resting on the top of the tooth as it penetrates the flesh. Its canine teeth are spaced in a way that they can slip between the cervical vertebrae of their prey and sever the spinal cord. Their back teeth, or carnassials, work like a pair of scissors, cutting through skin and tendon. Unlike humans, its jaw cannot move side to side, which helps it get through flesh even more efficiently. And they're fast. A lion can accelerate to a speed of 60 kilometers per hour in less than a minute. Its tongue can also do major damage. It's covered in hard, spiny papillae, dense mounds of skin cells that begin the digestion process. With a surface as rough as sandpaper, a lion's tongue can separate meat from bones. It can also draw blood with a single lick. Inside a lion's stomach, its gastric juices have the same pH as battery acid, so the king of the jungle doesn't have to chew before it swallows. A great white shark doesn't waste a lot of time chewing either. Its bite is so big, it can take in almost 15 kilos of flesh in one chomp. And like most toothy predators, the shark has other tools in its arsenal to add insult to injury. Like its awesome sense of smell. So precise, it can detect a single drop of blood in an Olympic-sized pool full of water. That's because sharks devote a huge part of their brain to powers of smell. And that's not all. Sharks also have sensory pores on their heads called ampullae of Lorenzini. These detect the electrical fields of prey, sensing an animal's heartbeat from a meter. Then there's the cougar. It has a bite so powerful it can bring down a small horse and drag it the length of a football field. We know the King Cobra has some scary fangs, sharp enough to penetrate flesh like a hypodermic needle. It's what comes out of those fangs that's really unnerving: venom. And this snake can deliver enough in one bite to kill an elephant, or 20 people. Snake venom is actually a modified saliva. It comes from glands situated on each side of the head, below and behind the eye. Muscles attached to these reservoirs force the venom through the snake's tubular fangs. Venom contains neurotoxins, deadly proteins that play a key role in immobilizing prey by causing disorientation, paralyzing the animal, and slowing its breathing. When in attack mode, the cobra sprays twin jets of deadly poison as far as 2 meters. No surprise that the folks who handle them wear goggles. The Komodo Dragon's teeth are scary all on their own. Big, curved, and serrated like a bread knife, they rip through flesh with ease. And if its teeth don't do the job, its saliva will. Should an animal manage to escape an attack, the dragon's spit contains bacteria that cause an infection that will probably kill it within a week. Thus weakened, other dragons will move in on this easy prey. One of the most vicious bites in nature belongs to the Tasmanian devil. Uninterrupted, devils can eat up to 40% of their body weight in half an hour. Its powerful jaws and teeth allow it to completely devour its prey, bones, fur, and all. Terrifying? Absolutely. But still not the deadliest bite in the animal kingdom. That dubious honor belongs to a creature that kills some 2 million people a year. One that can drink twice its weight in blood. It wreaks havoc by transmitting killer malaria parasites to its victim. That, of course, would be the tiny mosquito.
I'll tell you one thing, I hate mosquitoes. But I have a lot more respect for bugs, especially after I heard about the bombardier beetle.
Who is really taking over the Earth? With 1 million known species and at least 6 million more to name, insects are the most diverse group of animals on the Earth. The secret to their success? Insects have developed the most ingenious traits to survive. It's exactly why you don't want them for house guests. Take the bombardier beetle. Like most beetles, it's vulnerable to attack because it can't open its wings quickly. So it needs an effective defense mechanism. The bombardier has a deadly ability to spray 700 rounds of acid per second in different directions from its butt. Sound like science fiction? Glands in its abdomen produce boiling hot formic acid at 100 degrees Celsius. Makes a skunk look like a lightweight. There's a way to compare insect stings. U.S. entomologist Justin O. Schmidt has invented a sting index from 0 to 4. At 0, a sweat bee's gentle tingle barely registers, but a yellow jacket's burning sting rates a 2. The chart topper is the bullet ant. At over 4.0, this nasty insect from the rainforests of Nicaragua to Paraguay delivers a paralyzing sting of intense pain. It's like walking over flaming charcoal with a 3-inch rusty nail in your heel. Sometimes even a bite isn't needed to kill. A millipede produces a stench powerful enough to kill a mouse. Its stink glands unleash lethal fluids that contain chlorine and hydrogen cyanide, and they protect their own. Millipedes use the same noxious fluids to cover their eggs and protect them against predators. Other insects have more than 1,000 legs to worry about, like the termite queen. A prolific baby maker, she can give birth to over 30,000 offspring a day. Survival by numbers. And she is not as prolific as the aphid. Almost all aphids are female, but don't even bother with sex to reproduce. Many are born pregnant. It's mind-blowing, but if all aphids were to survive, there would be 10 to the power of 27. That's 27 zeros. Enough to cover the United States 4.5 meters deep in aphids. Other insects endure because they can find each other to mate. The male moth's nerve cells can detect minute amounts of female pheromone over 9 kilometers upwind. Like a bionic bloodhound, the moth zigzags across the wind as he tracks the plume of chemicals. Other insects use their keen perception to find a safe place to lay eggs. The melanophila beetle has discovered that a fire is a hot commodity. While a healthy pine tree's natural chemicals will poison the beetle larvae or drown them in sticky resin, a fire-damaged tree lacks those natural defenses. This beetle has evolved special organs under its armpits that act as ultraviolet light detectors. Against the tide of the escaping animals, the beetle radars in on a forest fire and finds a vulnerable tree to burrow in and lay its eggs. Given the ways they've adapted, it's no surprise that insects are the fastest-growing population in the world. And the king of the survivors is the most loathed of them all. La cucaracha. Even when a cockroach's head is cut off, it can still live for 9 days. With its limited circulatory system, the body needs little or no blood. It can even endure without food. With traits like these, it's no wonder they rule the world.
When cockroaches rule the Earth, I'll be looking for a new planet. When we come back, an object that weighs more than 1 million elephants. A lot more. Now that's heavy. Welcome back to Cooler Facts. Humans like building things on a grand scale. The bigger, the better. Well, we at Cooler Facts are going to supersize you. When we say big, we mean big. Like 5,700 Wembley Stadiums big.
The human race loves to build big. The world's heaviest building is the Palace of the Parliament in Bucharest, Romania. It weighs an amazing 700,000 metric tons. That's roughly the same as a herd of African elephants, 1,300,000 strong. The largest man-made structure is the Great Wall of China. It is 6,400 kilometers long, roughly the same distance as driving from Chicago to Los Angeles and back. The Great Wall also averages a width of 6.5 meters, which gives it a total footprint of about 41 million square meters. That's about 5,700 times the area taken up by the pitch at London's new Wembley Stadium. In fact, you could fit 5 Wembley stadiums end-to-end in one of the world's biggest man-made holes, which is located in Mirna, Siberia. Measuring a whopping 525 meters deep and over a kilometer across, it's a diamond mine with a difference. Dangerous air currents inside the hole create a suction effect, which is so strong it has caused a number of helicopters to crash. Crashing of a different kind is something they do well in the Netherlands, where they set the world domino toppling record with over 4 million domino tiles. Lined up in a row, they stretched on for 100 kilometers. Not bad for a game that was originally invented as a math puzzle in 1120 AD.
You know, for a place that's basically a frozen wasteland of ice, Antarctica is a pretty compelling and vibrant place. Well, why else would one of the world's biggest research centers be there?
The southern polar ice cap may be the coldest, driest, and windiest place on Earth, but Antarctica is anything but boring. The amount of ice alone is astonishing. 30 million cubic kilometers of it. Chop it all up, and every person on Earth would get a chunk the size of the Great Pyramid at Giza. Wow! If Antarctica's ice sheets melted, the world's oceans would rise by 60 meters, everywhere. Most of the ice rests on rock. What floats are called ice shelves. Ice that breaks free becomes icebergs. 90% of an iceberg floats beneath the surface of the water. Antarctica is home to the world's largest icebergs, including the B-15A. Roughly the size of Luxembourg, it broke off from the Ross Ice Shelf in 2000. Antarctica isn't all ice. Its inland parts are covered in dry valleys. With almost zero precipitation, this is actually the largest desert on Earth. It has not rained in the valleys for 2 million years. Antarctica is actually the best place in the world to find meteorites. Dark meteorites show up against the white expanse of ice and snow and don't get covered by vegetation. But there's more than just ice and desert. It's home to blue whales. During the feeding season in Antarctica, one whale eats about 4 million krill a day, or 3,600 kilograms every day for 6 months. The daily intake would feed a human for about 4 years. Antarctica is also teeming with scientists. The ice has made it the world's biggest laboratory. Because it's been here for thousands of years, and the coverage is so deep, it tells the story of the Earth's past. If you want to know what the temperature was 50,000 years ago, all you have to do is find a layer of ice that old, then just drill a hole in it, find an air bubble, and measure the CO2. More modern ice cores are proof of a rapidly warming planet, resulting in this, the snapping off of ice shelves. In 2002, the Larsen B shelf disintegrated. At 3,000 square kilometers, this ice cube was the size of Rhode Island. But when it comes to the geological drama of the Antarctic, it was only the tip of the iceberg.
I can't believe there's a place on Earth where it hasn't rained in over 2 million years. Well, from Earth years to light years, have you ever wondered how long it takes light to travel from the sun to us? Those warming, cooler facts coming right up. Hi, I'm Kim Jake Tiani. Welcome back to Cooler Facts. Pretty fast, eh? Well, that's nothing compared to some of the fastest things on Earth, including a common occurrence that will blow you away.
In spite of what race fans believe, it doesn't take a checkered flag to identify a speed champion. It's time to rethink our concept of speed and to find it in unusual places. The most scientific measure of speed and distance in space is the speed of light. Every day, it takes light just over 8 minutes to travel 146 million kilometers from the sun to warm the Earth. Closer to home, light needs only a second to travel from the Earth to the Moon, less than the average heartbeat. A car traveling 100 kilometers per hour non-stop would require almost 5.5 months to travel the same distance. Distances in space are measured by the time it takes light to travel. NASA's Hubble telescope recently discovered a supernova in one of the closest galaxies, only 7,500 light-years away. That's just a blink in the history of the Earth. In a galaxy less far away, your body is an example of a high-speed system. Every second, your body creates and kills up to 10 million red blood cells. That's 144 times as many shares as are traded per second on the New York Stock Exchange. Now consider this big deal. A sneeze travels out of your mouth at 160 kilometers per hour. This reflex response involves muscles in your face, throat, and chest. It's an incredible force. Sneezing puts such tremendous stress on your body that it's impossible to keep your eyes open. Beards are the fastest growing hairs on the human body. If the average man never trimmed his beard, it would grow to nearly 10 meters long in his lifetime. Before stroking your chin to think about that one, some human reactions hit speeds that defy thought. Since 1982, Ernie Hill has held the record for getting a signal, then drawing a pistol from a standing position and firing a shot in .208 seconds. It's hard to believe, because a reaction time of less than 0.1 of a second for Olympic sprinters is considered a false start. The time between the starting gun firing and the first kick off the start blocks is measured with electronic sensors. It takes 0.1 of a second for the sound of the starter's pistol to reach the runner's ears, and for a human to react to it. And there's nothing exclusive about top speeds in humans. A tiny 6mm insect known as a froghopper can jump so quickly that it generates a G-force of more than 400 gravities. An astronaut never feels more than 5 gravities to reach orbit. When the bug jumps, its leg muscles explode with a force to send it moving 4 meters per second. That's 140 times the force of a human high jumper. You don't even need legs to spring fast. There is a unique Malaysian snake that is adapted to living in the dark, and it feeds on bats. The cave racer can strike out into the air so fast that it never gets detected by the bat's natural radar system. You can find astonishing speeds lurking throughout space and nature, and sometimes even radar won't help you spot it.
So that's why snakes can never get speeding tickets. After the break, we're speeding off to a place where there's a storm raging the size of 3 Earths. We'll be right back. When it comes to our solar system, Mars gets its fair share of attention and is definitely on everyone's radar. But it can't hold a candle compared to the planet that weighs twice as much as all the other planets combined.
Showy, brash, and utterly spectacular, Jupiter is the Las Vegas of planets. Everything about it is excessive. For starters, there's its size. The 5th planet from the Sun is truly colossal. 1,000 Earths could fit inside it. In terms of mass, it outweighs all the other planets combined, ×2. Then there's this, its Great Red Spot. This storm of swirling gas has been raging for hundreds of years. 3 Earths would fit within its boundaries. Jupiter's atmospheric pressure is beyond comprehension, many millions of times greater than ours. The result? Giant swirling oceans of liquid metallic hydrogen that cover it, a gassy molten surface that will forever prevent us from landing on it. Jupiter's brand of hydrogen is unknown to us here on Earth. The ordinary variety is one of Earth's most abundant elements, but never in metallic form. In the high-pressure maelstrom of Jupiter, hydrogen turns to a solid. Because metallic hydrogen is a superconductor of electricity, Jupiter has an awesome magnetosphere. So epically huge, it belongs in the pages of science fiction. This giant magnetic bubble could engulf the Sun. If we could see it from Earth, it would look several times larger than the Moon. It also has a magnetic tail stretching beyond Saturn's orbit, more than 1 billion kilometers away. That's the distance from the Earth to the Moon, times 2,700. Jupiter's magnetic pull has earned it the reputation as vacuum cleaner of the solar system, sucking in comets, asteroids, and meteorites, ones that could do planet Earth major damage. Jupiter is so complex, it's almost its own little solar system. About 63 moons, asteroids, and comets circulate in its orbit. Officially, it has 16 moons, though likely many more. One of them, Io, is the most volcanically active place in the solar system. On its surface are about 200 volcanic caldera, giant basin-like depressions resulting from volcanic explosions. Each one is bigger than 20 kilometers. That's more than twice the height of Mount St. Helens. Io's gravity is low, just 1/6 of planet Earth's. If Old Faithful were here, it would fly up 30 kilometers. Low gravity means volcanic plumes fly fast and furious, shooting up at speeds of 1 kilometer a second, twice as fast as a speeding bullet, soaring to heights in excess of 250 kilometers. So what makes Io so hot under the collar? Tides, though not the kind we know on Earth. The gravitational fields of Jupiter raise tidal bulges in Io's crust as high as a 30-story building. As Io orbits Jupiter, the bulges move, flexing the crust and heating its interior, hence the 24/7 fireworks display. Pretty impressive for one little Jovian moon. But hey, that's Jupiter for you, always going over the top.
Well, you gotta love a planet that's over the top. And now we're filled to the top as a show that puts its own twist on science, nature, and technology comes to an end. But there are more cool facts out there, like glow-in-the-dark animals, stunning eruptions, and a river that flows backwards. Catch you next time. I'm Kim Jagtiani.
Welcome to Experimental, the science show where men play with robots, robots play with cows, and insects fly aeroplanes. Coming up, we separate this man's head from his shoulders and find out how a high-tech pair of trainers could force this kid off computer games. But first, World Championship Football. Freiburg Football Stadium in Germany. For one night only, robots are attempting to take over the world's favourite game, and we're hunting the man responsible for this atrocity. Professor Bernhard Nabel is an expert in artificial intelligence, and his robot is the first ever developed to take on a human at football and win.
My specialty is AI and robotics, and I'm trying to build robots that can play soccer and then are able to beat the human world champions.
A robot that can beat Brazil? What on earth does Bernhard's creation look like? Well, something like this, actually. And the contest isn't taking place in a stadium. It's in a pub around the corner. Bernhard's robot plays table football and is rather good at it. So good that later tonight it's going to be taking on world champion Thierry Muller. Bernhard is Professor of Artificial Intelligence and Robotics at the University of Freiburg. He made his name building robots that play football against robots. And they've won the Robo World Cup 3 times. But Bernhard's dream is that one day his World Cup winning robot team could take on a human team and kill them. But with strikers like this, he's got a long way to go, which is why he's gone back to basics.
Well, you switch to a game that is a bit simpler, and a bit simpler is this game here, which is table soccer, where you have a lot of control, but still there's all this uncertainty you have, and, well, now we built such a system.
Bernhard's creation is a robotic wonder. It features 8 powerful motors that slide and twist the 4 playing rods. An infrared camera updates the position of the ball 50 times a second. And against a random sample of people, it wins 75% of the time. Which makes Bernhard's machine the first in history that can beat humans at a physical game.
That was a 3rd goal against me. Annoying.
It's so popular that a commercial version has now been made. The camera is now underneath, and it even pays for itself. It's great at beating PhD students, but we wanted to know how it would cope against a real challenge. So we set up a showdown against 8-time German and 1-time world champion Thierry Muller. No wonder Bernhard's looking nervous. So a bright start by these 2 players in this first of 6 goals match. The robot, of course, playing in its usual home colours of blue. Both teams trying not to take any chances here. Oh, great goal from midfield, 1-0 to the robot. But they're off again, nice control from Thierry there. Oh, great reply. Lovely tour, caught the defence napping there. Oh, terrible slip up by the goalie there. He won't want to see that one again. 3-1. And the robot really is in charge. Can Thierry make it back from here? 3-2. And another. Thierry's really turning on the style. 5-3. Just one more needed for victory. And it's there. The human race wins again. And luckily, like any good manager, Bernhard has the excuses ready.
It was not in the best form, it has problems, and 6-3 is actually, I think, a very good result.
But what about our world champion? Conceding 3 goals against a robot, you must be sick as a parrot, Thierry.
A little bit, but I win.
But maybe not for long.
We are working on making the machine much better, and, well, one way to do that is to use imitation learning techniques so that we watch what the human does and then learn from it and improve the style of playing.
So, Thierry, however good you think you are, soon the computer will be watching and learning from your every move. But, for the time being at least, humans rule. In a moment, experimental meets the insects, destined to take over in the cockpit. But first, let's go to the test department for a spot of hanging and drowning. The human head, essential feature, or just somewhere to keep your hat? It's clear that our heads are crammed full of useful stuff, but just how much does a human head actually weigh, and how on earth do you work it out? On the face of it, it's a simple task. But when you try it for real, you soon come up against some serious problems. There are, of course, some rather drastic solutions to the problem, but decapitating scientists for entertainment is a bit of a no-no these days, at least on this channel. But fear not, there is a slightly safer way to isolate the head from the body. The test department's head separator 3000 system. By dangling our demonstrator upside down, the head hangs freely. Job done. But what about the weight? Well, that's what the bucket's for. That's right, we're going to dunk him. The water that spills over the edge will be directly proportional to the volume of his head. And because a good bit of us is water, that water will weigh pretty much the same as our demonstrator's head. So here are the results. Our demonstrator's head displays 6.5 litres of water, giving a weight of approximately 6.5 kilos. Remember, if you've got a tricky problem to solve, don't lose your head. In a moment, we'll be finding out if one of these can be flown by one of these. And the test department will unveil their new propulsion system for submarines. But first, let's head down to the farm and fondle some udders. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and with military precision, dairy workers in hundreds of farms across Britain are preparing cows for the first milking of the day. But not on this farm. This is Manor Farm in Oxfordshire. Some of the cows are having a lie-in, others are enjoying their breakfast. And there's not a human in sight. On this farm, it's the cows, not humans, that dictate the milking timetable. And it's all thanks to a robot that allows the cows to be milked whenever they feel like it. Welcome to the first organic dairy farm to be fully robotic. Farmer Neil Rowe is the man in charge. He believes that the key to keeping cows healthy is to make them happy. The entire farm is a shrine to bovine joy, and at the heart of it is a piece of seriously high-tech wizardry.
Basically, we have a robot which interacts with the cows and the cows with it, and we've created what is a voluntary milking system.
Dairy cows can produce on average 30 litres of milk a day, but can only carry 10 litres in their udders, so milking is crucial to keeping them comfortable. When they feel full, they wander over to the milking shed and queue up for the robot. It's designed to be a pleasurable experience to keep the cows coming back. The robot recognises a tag around the cow's neck as it enters and calculates how much milk it will have produced since its last visit. It then mixes up a meal to replace the exact protein and carbohydrate that the cow is about to lose. Rotating brushes sterilise and massage the cow's teats to stimulate the milk flow, and vacuum pumps latch on, guided by a series of invisible lasers. The milk from each quarter of the udder is collected separately, and its exact protein and fat content analysed and logged into a central computer.
The cows are very, very relaxed, and they're much quieter than they would be in a conventional farm where people are telling them what to do.
And it's all to the soothing tones of classical music.
Yeah, normally the cows like to listen to Mozart, and they do seem to like listening to it. And there is some scientific evidence to say that when they're listening to Mozart, the cows transfer the milk from their udder into this jar up to 10% faster.
The robotic system isn't a new idea. It's been around for years, but was originally developed for highly intensive factory farming, where the cows spend their short lives in concrete sheds and are pumped full of drugs to hold off disease. Where Neil is unique is in his approach to the technology. He recognised how the robot's features could be integrated into an organic ethos, where the cows are free to enjoy the finer things in life, and rampant disease is a thing of the past. His cows are happy cows. But don't just take our word for it. Dr. Dirk Zaire is one of the world's top bovine experts. And he's a big fan of Neil's setup. Blimey, I'm glad he's not my doctor.
The uterus is a 3. Milk consistency is about a 3. And the digestibility is a 1. So that is very good. The nice thing about Neil's farm is he does not use drugs. We do alter it here with management, because management is the key how to improve this. And Neil's farm is the proof of the pudding, so to speak. His disease incidence is very low, his culling rate is very low, which is a sign on itself of happy, healthy cows. You see here, eating my hand, eating from my hand. Well, you know, this is a happy animal.
Now that Neil's gone robotic, he only has to visit the farm a couple of times each day for routine maintenance. And this frees him up to spend more time with his family.
There are one or two farmers' wives I know that are not too keen on it because it means their husbands are around a lot more.
So Neil gets to do the school run now. And he's also spent time pioneering a system that selects milk with particular qualities.
We can actually ask the robot to select milk from Pacific cows which are producing the highest quality milk for making ice cream. There's no other way of doing that in a conventional system.
This ice cream manufacturer in Oxford is able to specify the exact protein and fat levels it needs for the perfect scoop. And they're so proud of it, they have Neil's cows on the wall.
This is a win-win situation, that the cows can win by having a better lifestyle. The farmer wins because he has more time and a better return on his investment. The consumer wins because they're getting a better product.
And the final word goes to Daisy, which I think means I couldn't agree more. On Experimental, we like to ask the difficult questions, such as, why is it you can't get a good cup of tea on an aeroplane? Well, let's see what happens when our intrepid aviator Etienne and his trusty kettle take to the skies. At takeoff, the kettle is happy to boil away at exactly 100 degrees centigrade. As he rises through the clouds, something very odd begins to happen. As the air pressure drops with altitude, so does the temperature at which the water boils. By the time Etienne gets to 10,000 feet, the water is boiling at a mere 90 degrees Celsius. And as he climbs through 30,000 feet, it's dropped even further, to around 70 degrees Celsius. But what's Etienne got to do with tea on a jetliner? Well, the pressure inside a jet plane is kept at around 8,000 feet, which means that the boiling temperature of water is down to around 90 centigrade. And as every Englishman will tell you, that's simply not hot enough to get the full flavour out of the tea leaves. Coming up, fireworks for your goldfish, courtesy of the test department. But first, an item to freak out anyone with a fear of flying.
Roger, Red Leader, turn 360, green 5.
Ever wonder how the brain of a Top Gun works? How it can make thousands of life or death decisions in a few fractions of a second? Well, that was one of the questions running through the mind of Dr. Jack Gray of the University of Saskatchewan in Canada. But he wasn't interested in sticking wires into the brains of the flyboys. He wanted to study a pilot that could knock any Top Gun for 6. Meet the Locust, the ultimate formation flyer.
I'm pretty fond of them. They're very well-adapted creatures. They are much more complex than we have thought, and as we learn more, we discover how much more complex they actually are.
What Dr. Gray wanted to do was to find out how the locust's primitive nervous system allowed it to fly and navigate in massive swarms without constantly colliding into its mates. So how do you study an insect flying? Meet Loco Simulator 1. First, the locust is fixed to a small length of fishing line, and then suspended in a specially designed wind tunnel. As soon as the fan begins to turn, the locust feels the wind over its head and does what locusts do best: fly. The locust moves freely, allowing Dr. Gray to film and study its natural behaviour. And to make the locust do more than simply fly forward, Dr. Gray projected images of possible objects onto a screen inside the wind tunnel. What he found confirmed his suspicions, that the locust's brain was extremely responsive.
It has very fast neurons that can detect approaching objects and allowing the locust to make that very fast decision as to where to go.
So what are these neurons he talks about? Watch what happens when a stimulus enters our flyboy's head.
Oh, I say, look at those eyes. What is it?
The stimulus fires up millions of neurons. And whilst he thinks a lot, making a decision seems to take a long time.
Ready to go.
Now, let's see things from the locust point of view. Not many neurons involved, and a fast, simple decision. Dr. Gray's wind tunnel had proved to him that locust brains can react extremely fast to stimulus. But it wasn't enough. He wanted to dig deeper and actually see what their brains were doing. And for that, he needed a new simulator. Now the locust is mounted on a small pillar, with sensors monitoring its nervous system. Instead of the crude images of LocoSim 1, the locust is now immersed in a virtual reality world and is free to fly wherever it wants to.
When the locust is in the flight simulator, we've actually turned it into a joystick. And so when the locust tries to move, that signal moves the environment in a way the locust might expect it to.
Although it's a long way off, there are some who think we may be able to use the signals coming from the locust nervous system to control not just the simulator, like Dr. Gray has, but tiny aircraft that can fly by themselves. However, it's going to take a long time for a human Top Gun to turf the Top Guns out of the cockpit. Still to grace your screens, high-tech trainers designed to get this little lad off the couch. But first, someone told the test department that fireworks burn underwater. Rather than just fluttering her eyelashes and trying to look interested, this test department tester decided she'd find out. Naturally, with fireworks being very dangerous, a firework testing 3000 machine needed to be constructed. OK, so it's a fish tank and a plank of wood, but it'll do the trick. And now for the big moment. Will the firework burn underwater? Light the blue touch paper, stand well back, and dip. It works! Our little friend wasn't telling porky pies after all. But why is it working? Well, water does have oxygen in it. That's why we call it H2O. But that's not what's happening here. When a firework burns, it uses oxygen that's locked up in the chemicals within the firework itself. So not only can it burn underwater, but it would also do the same quite happily on the moon.
That may be so, but remember, this experiment is very dangerous and environmentally extremely irresponsible. Just look at that mess.
People have been banging on about obesity for so long that some adults seem to have actually heard the message and are trying their best to tramp off the pounds. Sadly, for every extra step taken by the big people in the gym, there's another section of the population taking another bite. That's right, kids. And that's got experts like Jane Wardle very worried.
Childhood obesity is a tremendous problem in all Western countries at the moment. Overweight in childhood puts you on a track for becoming an overweight adult with all the health costs that that's associated with. And you may also see health costs in childhood of being overweight. For example, raised blood pressure, raised lipids, even, in extreme cases, you'll see insulin resistance and the development of diabetes in childhood.
But try telling that to a kid just 6 kills short of level 9. The house could fall down and they'd never notice. However, Gillian Swan of Brunel University thinks she's got an invention that could do the trick.
Well, I wanted to tackle obesity by finding an alternative to diet. So I looked at what children like doing, which I found to be watching television, and tried to tie this in so that television was the reward.
Gillian is an expert in embedded technology, the art of sticking technology into everyday objects. And the object she stuck her technology into, shoes. The idea is that a sensor in the shoe detects the amount of steps you've taken each day, and when you get home, the shoe tells your TV or game station how far you've walked. Clock up a decent distance and the TV will switch on for a set amount of time. When the time runs out, the screen goes black, and the only way you can switch things on again is to get off the sofa and start exercising. To get a full hour's worth of electronic frills, a kid would have to clock up 6,000 paces, or almost 5 kilometres. But with kids watching around 2.5 hours of TV a day, they'll need to schlep nearly 12 kilometres to gain their full reward.
Well, I think it's a really neat idea. In our experience of working with very overweight and obese children in treatment, is that children can quite enjoy any little gizmo which will measure their steps and can get quite into trying to increase their number of steps. So if the shoes could do the trick, then that would be good news.
So, if the square-eyed shoes catch on, we might just see kids using their trainers for, well, training.
A 50-story Ferris wheel so finely tuned that stopping would throw it off balance. Let's jump on and off the London Eye. You practically wear this jet ski. It's a radical rethink in watercraft design that lets beginners ride like pros. 4 times higher than Niagara Falls. A man-made lake, lots of power. Hoover Dam beyond the postcards. Red, green, and amber. The modern traffic light controls our movement. Let's look inside these machines and see how they work. This is the London Eye, the largest cantilevered Ferris wheel in the world. Ferris wheels are nothing new. They've been around since 1893. And none of them ever veered from the basic bicycle wheel design until the Eye came around. This big wheel is different. It's held up from one side, and while at work, it never stops moving. The Eye's designers had some complex challenges getting it off the ground, then getting it running. London's always been a big draw for tourists, but it's never been known for its skyscrapers. A bird's eye view here was always, well, for the birds. So, for the new millennium, London leaders held a design contest to create a top-of-the-world view. There were 3 conditions. Be reasonably priced, keep the footprint small, and make it easy to disassemble. That's because they planned to take it down in 5 years. But the Eye was so popular, they kept it as a permanent fixture of the London skyline. The first challenge was just getting the wheel to the building site. The River Thames has 2 problems: 6-meter tides and a lot of obstacles. Easy enough for small river traffic, but getting large bits of the wheel through narrow passages like the Thames flood barrier and numerous bridges meant perfect timing with changing water levels. The tightest squeeze they faced had a clearance of less than ½ a meter. Getting it here through an obstacle course was one challenge, but nothing like the second problem, getting it up. In construction terms, this site at Jubilee Gardens is a postage stamp. Not nearly enough land to assemble 1,700 tons of metal. All they had was the river. They placed the Eye's pieces on 8 temporary islands, where they were put together. Then, the wheel was pulled up to a 65-degree angle. After some adjustments, it was swung into its final position. These cable backstays anchor the Eye into 33 meters of concrete. So, it's up and it's secure. How does it keep smooth and stable while carrying up to 800 passengers at a time? For that, we need to look to the Eye's pods and some pretty special truck tires. 32 glass pods attached to the Eye's outer rim. Each holds 25 riders and weighs 10 tons. That's a lot of weight hanging off the edge of a wheel. And these pods don't swing back and forth like the seats on a typical Ferris wheel. The Eye's pods each have a built-in leveling system to stay horizontal. There are 2 bearing rings for each pod. The inner part of each ring is fixed to the wheel structure. The outer part is fixed to the pod. So as the wheel turns in one direction, the pods rotate the other way to maintain their horizon. Each pod turns on these circular mounting rings, while the leveling system keeps everything running smoothly. Each rotation takes 30 minutes. Each pod traveling just under 1 kilometer per hour, 6 times slower than a casual stroll. That lets passengers step on and off without the wheel ever having to stop. And it gives you a lot of time for these great views. This spindle at the Eye's center holds the whole thing together. 23 meters in height, together with the hub, weighs over 300 tons. 64 spokes stabilize the machine, along with 16 rotation cables. These attach to the hub at an angle, preventing lag in the Eye's rotation. The wheel itself is turned by this set of truck tires. Hydraulic motors turn the tires, and the rotation of the tires turn the wheel. If you're up the Eye in bad weather, these dampers fixed around the rim prevent vibration caused by high winds. That could weaken and wobble the entire structure. Not quite the ride that sightseers line up for. They buy their tickets to get an unparalleled view of one of the world's great cities on a machine that delivers exactly that. An elevator, observation deck, and great ride all in one. Almost 50 stories high in a city shy of skyscrapers. The only view of London worth the ticket. There are 3 basic classes of jet ski. There's the familiar sit-down model. Big, solid, great for cruising. The sporty stand-up model, designed for extreme tricks, but not something you master on vacation. Then there's this guy. A prototype called the Samba. Inspired by race bikes, it's one of the fastest jet skis on water, with radical features that lets a beginner ride like a pro. Let's see how it works. To make a jet ski maneuver like this without trashing its driver, you gotta respect the laws of hydrodynamics. That's why the Samba is built super light, only 90 kilograms, so it gets up to speed in a heartbeat. This other beast weighs over 3 times more and has to push a lot more water out of the way getting up to speed. Add a top-of-the-line custom engine to the Samba, and you've got a machine with a crazy power-to-weight ratio advantage. To see what powers a jet ski, take a look at this rocket, demonstrating that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And all jet skis are water rockets. Push a stream of water one way, the machine goes the other. Its powerful water jet is driven by an impeller, which is pretty much a propeller jammed into a tube. Impellers take water in through a wide opening and force it out through a smaller one. This creates what's called a Venturi effect, where low-pressure water behind the impeller pulls more water towards the blades, increasing its speed. And when moving, extra water is rammed into the housing through a scoop, maximizing the jet effect. At its top speed, the Samba spits out enough water to fill your bathtub in half a second. The impeller is powered directly by the engine. That's fueled with a custom mix of high-octane gasoline and nitrous. Every bit helps. But after several years and a few blown engines, Samba's designers discovered that speed wasn't just about engine power. It's about how the machine contacts water. So, they came up with a radical new hull shape for a smoother, lower friction ride, and allows them to easily hit speeds over 60 miles per hour. All right, it's skinny and fast, but a low-friction ultralight body and a powerful engine are one thing. Controlling them, another. The designers wanted much tighter handling than other machines. All jet skis turn the same way. The steering works by changing the direction of the water jet from side to side. But it's not enough to get you doing this, or this. Leaning on one of these won't do much. This machine outweighs the driver 4-to-1. But the Samba weighs about the same as its rider. So you change its angle of attack with a simple body lean. A light frame and low driver position perfectly positions the machine's center of gravity. The driver's race bike crouch looks cool and aerodynamic. But in terms of handling, it allows instant communication between body and machine. In this position, the driver's center of gravity is the area framed between his shoulders, hips, knees, and extended wrists. And this sweet spot gives you maximum control over the machine for tricks and turns. But even the perfect weight ratio and a low center of gravity won't make it easy to do spins like this. With its new hull, the Samba's been overcoming friction for maximum speed. Now, to spin some real tricks, it wants all that friction back. And it does it with these wings that stay out of the water until you lean into them. Then they catch. This creates so much friction, it turns the water into a fixed point around which the machine rotates. It's a bit like pitching a pole into the ground and spinning around it. A natural move for the next generation of jet skis. Just don't take it too far. Or on second thought, go ahead. You don't need to be a pro to rock this machine. A low-slung driver position, radical hull design with lots of speed and control. Which is why you may see a lot more of this machine on the water. If you see it at all. Water provides 1/5 of the world's electrical power. And it's done with some of the largest machines ever built. Hydroelectric dams. Let's check out a famous one, Nevada's Hoover Dam, and see how it works. A machine like this blocks a river to form a deep reservoir that creates water pressure to drive turbines that produce electricity. Sounds simple enough, but the challenges facing dam builders are enormous. First, how do you block a river that doesn't want to stop moving? With a lot of concrete. In the 1930s, it took 5 million barrels of cement and 2 years of pouring to build this retaining wall. Pressure from all that blocked river water is so immense, they built the wall's base over 2 football fields wide to hold it back. And it's not a single block of concrete either. Because as concrete dries or cures, it gives off heat. This much concrete poured in a single block would have produced so much heat that it would have taken over a century to set. So, the wall is actually a series of individual blocks that cooled one at a time after they were poured. They were locked together with notches, like pieces of Lego, and then glued with a thin cement mix. With a concrete wall over 4 times the height of Niagara Falls. Only one major feature makes it strong enough to hold back the Colorado River. The dam's shape. See how it's curved? It's built in the form of an arch, which spreads the force of the water evenly toward the solid canyon walls. No weak spots. There's enough water pressure in Lake Mead to literally impact the Earth's crust. The canyons behind the dam hadn't felt anything heavier than air for a long time. So as the reservoir filled up, its weight in water caused hundreds of small earthquakes. The first time, unsuspecting geologists understood that man-made reservoirs can impact the Earth's surface. The next challenge for the hydroelectric dam is to harness enough water pressure to produce electricity for 500,000 homes in California, Nevada, and Arizona. Not bad for a machine that doesn't spit out a single puff of smoke. What it does spit out is water pressure, the key to this machine's output. Sure, running water can create power, but not nearly as much as water under pressure. Think about washing dirt off your car. Which would you rather use? We thought so. And Hoover's turbines need the same thing. So, the dam takes water from its reservoir through 4 intake towers, down 9-meter-wide pipes to the machine's turbines, located almost 50 stories beneath Mead's surface. Water is pulled down by the force of gravity. As it descends, the water pressure increases. The deeper you go, the stronger the pressure. And down here, the pressure is bone-crushing. More than 100,000 kilograms per square meter. That's like compressing 2 elephants into a shoebox. The pressurized water flows from the intake tunnels into these tapered pipes. The tapering effect creates a water jet that blasts into Hoover's turbines. But to manage the machine's electrical output, the water has to be controlled. These wicket gates open and close to change the amount of water spinning the turbines. There's enough water rushing through here to fill 15 swimming pools in 1 second. Okay, the turbines are spinning. What now? How does all this add up to electricity? A shaft connects each turbine with a generator, which houses a whirling assembly of electromagnets spinning next to a ring of copper coils. The swirling magnetic field literally pushes the metal coil's electrons around, and that's what creates electrical current. Hoover's got 17 turbine generator combos that send all that electricity out to an array of transformers, which then send it out to the grid and to all its customers. When it was finished, it was the largest concrete project in the world. Tourists may flock here to marvel at its size and beauty. We come to see how simple it really is. Block water, pour it down a man-made hole, spin some turbines, make power. Nothing to it. Red, amber, and green. It's a language the whole world gets. There are subtle differences in signals from country to country, but their function is the same. The modern traffic light studies, predicts, and controls our movement. Large cities deal with millions of cars every day. Drivers may feel like they lose a lot of time waiting for lights to change, but traffic lights are meant to keep us organized as we move. Let's see how they work. The problem with city traffic is that it's never the same. At many big city intersections, you'll see a traffic control cabinet. It's a watchdog that keeps tabs on the traffic flow of its intersection. And it often gets the information it needs from here. Buried just beneath the pavement, a metal sensor keeps track of cars as they pass overhead and sends the data back to the control box that adds it all up. A program then adjusts the timing of the lights according to its car count. The control box information makes it back to here, a command center, where info comes in from all kinds of places. The pavement sensors, traffic cameras, 911 calls, road crews, traffic reporters, and of course, the police. All this input helps operators change the timing of traffic lights on the fly. When they're not doing that, they study simulators to help predict traffic flow at an intersection and then reprogram the lights according to the results. These boxes also come with a program called a conflict manager. It makes sure that no one gets hurt from mixed signals. If anything falls out of sync, the box defaults the intersection to a single color. Speaking of color, let's see how the lights work. Halogen bulbs illuminate most traffic lights, but LEDs are taking over. They're brighter, which means safer. They last for years, which means low maintenance. And they save power, up to 80%. The light-emitting diodes in an LED lamp are laid out in patterns. They allow for faster switching and can even contain different color displays and patterns in a single lamp. In a growing number of cities, traffic light control systems also play a crucial role in getting emergency vehicles through traffic. With help from a remote device that changes lights on the fly. Don't we wish we all had one of these? It's a remote control light changer. It's called an Emergency Vehicle Preemption System, or EVP. And it changes traffic signals to clear intersections for emergency vehicles. Devices flash secret-coded infrared or light signals to a receiver that can detect an EVP from up to 900 meters away. Once the pulse has been received, the lights change as needed. This reduces response time for emergency vehicles and makes intersections a lot safer for other vehicles in the area. So, the next time you're waiting for a red light to change and you feel like you're just another number, relax. The box on the corner may just reward you with a string of green ones down the road.